Live.
Yes. For the first time in a long time, it's the Tim McKernan Show podcast from the Longo Big Studios. Now, literally, I just opened up the Twitter tweets. And the first thing I see is the Tim McKernan Show live QFTA, and then the little thumbnail is you, KG and O-Town, and the Plowhawk holding up the Fan Page Club Championship banner. What in God's name is this?
No, I know. So I've had this
I find it entertaining, though.
Thank you. I've had this issue where, and this is getting into the weeds of like how we do YouTube live streaming, but whenever I like the most recent thumbnail for this certain stream setting we have, it just pops up again. So for like the beginning of yesterday's Fan Page Club Championship bracket breakdown, it was Brianna Coppage and Megan Gaither as the thumbnail. And so now that I changed that thumbnail after the fact to me, KG and O-Town, the Plowhawk, it says that, and then I'll change it to like a picture of you and me or a picture from
I posted Ella Reese on the TMA fan page on Facebook.
If I can change it to Ella Reese, then the next time we go live that isn't a TMA daily live stream, it'll be that thumbnail. I don't know how to change it before we start. I got to figure that out.
Got it.
Because I have run into that issue before. So that is why it is. And it's maybe a cute little photo of us.
It is a nice little, it's darling is what it is. With me being out of town last week, we did one early in the week.
Yeah.
And then I've been busy as the tiniest of little beavers.
Yeah, I feel
this week. I actually was pulling out of my parking spot at around 1:30 or 2 on, I think it wasn't yesterday, it was Wednesday. And I thought to myself, how have I done this to myself? It was an inner monologue thing. I thought, how have I done this to myself? And Tommy's always said, he goes, we know you're going to burn out. So we're just waiting for you to come to us. I'm like, okay. Because I keep saying, I want to do more. And he goes, okay. Because you're crazy. You don't get it, but you wouldn't do it. Because we know you're going to burn out, so we're just waiting for you to. I go, okay. And then as I was pulling out, and then my wife's like, why do you always? And I go, here we are. That's where we are. So that has precluded QFTA, and here I am while the Masters is going on.
Right.
God, Taylor Moore. So I've got a DraftKings team that is insane, with one exception, Peter Malnati.
Old bucket hat.
Otherwise, the other 5 guys are all in the top 14, including Bryson DeChambeau and Scotty Scheffler, Taylor Moore, who's now 4 under and tied for 4th, Will Zalatoris and Matthew Fitzpatrick.
It's almost...
It's. I would rather have dog shit rosters because Malnati's 9 over and barring a miracle is not going to make the cut. And it's just going to be, I'm going to look at that thing all weekend long, especially if the other 5 motherfuckers continue to perform, and just be like, oh, God.
That's the thing. Like, if Malnati's not able to make a...
Because he's owned by like 0.6% of the field. And then I tell the story, and people go, why the fuck did you pick him? Which is so results-oriented. Because I got DeChambeau, and I'm sure plenty of people are like, DeChambeau? But Jay Delsing was all over DeChambeau. So I'm like, I got to be, when I was texting with Jay, all right, I'll put some Jay Delsing in there. I had no plans of putting not Jay Delsing, but Bryson DeChambeau in there until I texted with Jay. Chris Bray says, hi, boys. Hi. Jackson, how many wins do you need to see for the Billikens Hoops team to be considered back? Got some coaches, John and Dean Ellis.
Not so much like the amount of wins, finish in the top 3 of the A-10, but the big key is beating a big non-conference opponent. They haven't done that since 2019 or 2020. You got to beat one of the Power 5 schools in your non-con. That's what gets you in to the tournament.
Yeah.
No matter what happens in the A-10 tournament, you got to win one of those non-con games.
Josh Schertz, you excited one way or the other? The honest answer is I don't know a thing. I know Indiana State was good this year, but in St. Louis, it's a tradition for the media to always feel like a Missouri Valley team was left out. It's,
And for SLU to move into the Missouri Valley. But
of course.
It's just not the play. Good hire. I get it. It's the right move. Get a guy, hot coach. This is just what you get.
Where do I get an Ella Reese jumpsuit? God, I'm telling you. I was just saying to Jackson, though, she's got her hair, she's like full-on brunette now. And she was would you say dishwater blonde? Do you like that term, dishwater blonde?
Yeah, it's a perfect descriptor.
Because I kind of think my wife's a dishwater blonde, but I don't know if she'd like me saying that.
Is it more like a lighter brown? I don't know, I have
See, I think she would say she's blonde. I mean, I've been with her for 16 years, and she's definitely not brunette.
right, yeah.
But let me tell you, you want to know what my kink is?
I've been waiting on pins and needles.
I wouldn't say it's my kink, but what I am attracted to is usually a darkish blonde or brunette blue eyes. That's my thing. That's my thing.
Yeah.
So so my wife certainly fits, and I know for her, she always was going out with really short, bald guys with misshapen heads and abrasive personalities. Those were her kinks.
Yes.
And so this was just a match. What else could you ask for?
Perfect union.
Let's see. MLB needs to copy the Masters app for baseball. It could save the sport. That's from the Hunchback of Von Castle. Well, in a vacuum, Hunchback of Von Castle, I absolutely agree. The core issue that makes this not apples to apples, not saying that the Hunchback of Von Castle, who's a reputable participant in this program along with TMA, is at the Masters, I don't know how much they're concerned about their television deal, although I know it's certainly significant and I'm sure they enjoy it. But I don't think the members of Augusta National are hoping for a distribution from the country club in order to be able to pay their mortgages, if anybody at Augusta National actually has a mortgage. While as baseball, for the Cardinals, for example, it was about a third of their revenue.
Right.
And I can't speak for other organizations, but one of the reasons why the Dodgers are able to do what they do is their television deal is otherworldly. I would imagine the Yankees and their ownership, and yes, is otherworldly. And then you have Major League Baseball having to take over the Padres broadcast, for example, to the point that Mark Sweeney went from the Padres broadcast this year to the Cardinals broadcast. Beats the hell out of me, but that's what happened.
I think people often forget that, and obviously they outsource a lot of their stuff to bigger companies, but the Masters is run by Augusta National Golf Club. That is who runs the tournament. That's the governing body.
And they don't really care if you like anything or not.
Right. They're the only tournament in all of golf that doesn't allow rangefinders. Like, they don't give a shit. They run it how they want to run it, so they have a lot of control over where their product goes and how they distribute it, whereas MLB has 30 different teams with different deals. Some have their own networks. Some work with other regional sports networks. It's all over the place. It's a lot easier to run it when you totally control everything that goes on with your product, like Augusta does with the Masters.
For the record, for those who are listening, watching live, and I know that's not the way that most people consume this podcast, but +5 is now 37.9%. Can Peter Malnati go 4 under?
He's what, through 11 now?
I hope he's through. I want to see him through 11 because I'm not expecting a birdie on 11.
Yeah.
God almighty. I mean, now Grillo is 14 over, Maronc's 13 over, Couples is 12 over, Harmon is 9 over, Malnati is tied with him at 9 over, Dustin Johnson's at 8 over, Sam Burns is at 8 over, Jordan Spieth is at 7 over, Justin Rose is at 6 over, the great or not great putting JT Poston's at 6 over, and Sahith Theegala is at 5 over along with Keegan Bradley. I mean, this is a who's who of guys putting up monster numbers. Meanwhile, Max Homa, as we are talking, is 2 under and tied for the lead at 7 under par, along with Bryson, who's even through 1, and Scotty Scheffler, who goes off in about an hour and a half. Holy shit. Yeah. Wow. Windy conditions all over the United States here on April 12th, 2024. Let's see what we've got here. I just went to my Facebook, and it says Kenny Strode mentioned me in a memory. Because I posted on the TMA fan page 11 years ago. The Ryan Kelly Morning After Show still has a few tickets left for Savage Amusement and Almost Kiss at the Family Arena tonight.
Almost Kiss.
And it's a picture of what I would say looks like 1,000 tickets.
Were those the ones that
on Iggy's desk
given away at the gas station? Are they giving those tickets away?
There was a report that there was a stack of tickets for Almost Kiss at a gas station by Family Arena. Just like when you check out, there was a stack of them.
Oh God! Look how many. There might be you're right. There's like 1,000 tickets.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and then it also says price 0.0.
God almighty, unbelievable. I'll be real honest with the audience. I didn't do a QFTA. I didn't do a podcast this week, and so I'm checking a box today because all I want to do is go home and watch the Masters, to be real transparent. But I'm doing it. We have sponsors of the podcast. Now, the sponsors of the podcast, the deal is I do one per week. We obviously did one every day for a month, so they already have got. But just on the off chance, I want to make sure I do my job, and my job is one a week. And usually I love doing this. As you know, you've sat through 3.5-hour podcasts with me. In this case, if you have something you want me to answer on the fly, fire it in, because I'm not interested in going into the emails and kind of just checking a box. You're going to get it here right. Anything you've ever wanted to ask, it's like a live chat, and I will do it right now.
AMA. Ask me anything.
Ask AMA. It really is. So if you're in the YouTube chat, fire away, because that's where I'm going to get the question from, and I'll go. Because I have gotten some really good Cardinal emails, and I don't want to kind of like just go through the motions and go, okay, I got to get home. I want to see the Masters. But yeah, if you do want to ask other things when I'm in a more of a detail mode, T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com. Thank you to Longo Biggs, our studio sponsor here. Worst boss. Nicely done, Hunchback of Mon Castle. Hey, write down who you think my answer is.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds here.
And here's the thing. The audience wouldn't guess it.
Nope.
That's the thing about it. That's the amazing part about it. Jackson's not even hesitant.
I think of his last name. Oh, yeah.
Longo Biggs, longobiggs.com. I'm based on that. Oh, you're not putting it on the camera.
No.
Okay. How can you put it on the camera? You can just text it to me, I guess.
Yeah, I could just text it to you.
It's nicely done. Hunchback of Von Castle. LongoBiggs.com. James Carlton, Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, online at carltoninsurance.net. Mark Hanna, Evergreen Wealth Strategies. Had lunch with Mark yesterday, a wonderful gentleman, online at evergreenstl.com. Seth Goldcamp, Design Air Heating and Cooling, online at designairservice.com. And the wonderful people at Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. I'm opening up my iMessages to see a name that I expect. That's right. without even question. Yeah. You can put Dan Marshall. You go, Dan Marshall? Distant. Distant. Yeah, but great question. Was it intentional? I haven't. Now I'm reading this on the fly without reading them in advance. Was it intentionally planned for the audience participation from the beginning? In my opinion, TMA has a shockingly high amount of creativity and wit from the texters, emailers. That's a really good question, and really one that is worthy of a non-drive-by QFTA, because you are so accurate. This is a bigger picture thing. I don't think they're on the outside looking in of TMA. So people who just know that it exists. So even people in the industry, people appreciate not the show, but the audience's talent. I'm not talking about everybody in the audience. We got some assholes, but every show, if you get to a point where you get a following, you're going to have assholes, and it's a different kind of asshole than the 101 asshole. Yeah, some of the assholes they concern me. I have never read a text, honest to God, and I don't know if you have, because you've gotten some anti-Semitic shit. Even though I've gotten some surprisingly anti-Catholic shit for the first time in my life, especially in St. Louis, on 101, that I've been going, ooh, this one's scary. Have you?
No, even the anti-Semitic. It's like dumb anti-Semitic.
Right, so. Exactly. It's like, well, you guys are gay. It's like, oh.
Nice, yeah.
Nice.
Boy, that one hurts the psyche.
That's what you get there. On TMA, like for the 0.01%, and now that yeah, you were with us we were with sponsors at an event a couple weeks ago, and was talking with one. He goes, now I'm aware of one, and he goes, oh God, he goes, you guys aren't messing around. I go, yeah, I said, and it's not the 101. They may hate us on 101,
right?
But it's not like the obsessive thing.
Totally.
So, for the other 99.99 of that, and those who interact, there are some brilliant comedic minds, and I'm not overstating it. And so coaches John and Dean Ellis, I mean, just your name alone, which is a total inside joke to Jackson guessing the names of the Maple Leafs and Bruins head coaches, if I'm not mistaken. That's where connecting from Balloon Party. I cannot imagine, and oftentimes people do this to jerk their audiences off. I'm just telling you what I really think. I cannot imagine, and the Rish Show has a bigger audience than us without question, and I'm the first one to say it. But as far as like the audience's value to the content and also the quality. Like, it's one thing if you're just like Francesa and you're like, okay, I'm going from 1:30 to 6 today, but I'm just going to go through phone calls and I know they'll call in. It's not necessarily going to be creative. It's like, Mike, what do you think of the Giants secondary? That's a different thing than like the shit that we get. It can be brilliant. It can be show-stopping caliber, cutting. Most of the time it's directed specifically on Iggy and Plowboy, but occasionally, and I read them when they're on me, and when they're not political about Doug, and you don't really get much, but occasionally you'll get them. Pale, Virgin, what else? The Cinephile, the movie thing, Dawson's Creek.
Yeah.
I enjoy that because I don't really know what the reference is. I just know that apparently his character was really into movies.
That's right. Yeah, he was a film student or something.
Is that right?
The show came out like before I was born, or at least like when I was almost 1. But I mean, you look at like one of the many reasons why the show's been on 20 years. One of the big reasons is because you have the listeners can not only enjoy and listen to the show, but they can be very involved with the program, and it's symbiotic in a way because it's great for our show.
And I want it that way. I actually, what are the chances of this? I was actually thinking that the only thing that was really like, because I can do a show where you're not obviously, I mean, Jesus, this is a perfect example, but I barely look at the text inbox. I do it during breaks to like find the ones that are like attacking us just to laugh at them.
Yeah, right.
You know, and then you'll read one to me or I'll read one to you and we'll just laugh at it. The YouTube chat. In other words, that's not the content of Balloon Party. I don't need texts. You don't need text to do a show. What was alarming about the first episode of Balloon Party is I was so used to just opening up a text inbox and it would create, I hate the word content, but that's what it was, except for, because I say content now is like, you know.
Yeah, they go like Martin Scorsese's new movie, like good content from like, God. What the hell are you?
It's a form of entertainment, but also like a fire starter for discussion. Mm-hmm. And so I had never been in the 101 ESPN studio, never, until like a second, I mean, probably 60 seconds before we started Balloon Party. And I'm not bullshitting. That's and I know you know it's the truth, but the audience probably can't believe that, which in hindsight was irresponsible as fuck. But, so I'm just like, okay, we do what we do. That's what I was told to do. So I'm going to go do what I do. And then I open up the text inbox and it's just like, oh, this is different. and so it was more like I'm stunned by what I'm seeing. Not like I'm like, hold on a second, they don't like me. I've had that for a while. I was like, and it's like, it was like reading a comment section.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like the TMA thing. And I actually was thinking that today during the commercial break when I was reading some of them, and now they kind of like us. Mm-hmm. So it's a different deal. But it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe that they don't like us. It was, I'm used to just being able to, if I want to advance a discussion or that I can just open it up and I know I'm going to get either something that's amusing or something that is, I don't want to say intelligent because then it makes it look like I'm saying other people aren't, but like, it moves the show forward.
Bolsters up the conversation.
So if I just read, okay, let me just read here. 636 says, "You guys must suck each other off." You know, then that's like, oh, well, that probably isn't going to Jackson. You know, you can't really do much with that.
I would like you to say that, and then at the end say Jackson, and see what I have to say. That's fine. Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
So that's the thing, and it's so good that the bar is so high on TMA for emails and texts that when calls come in and they're kind of exposed a little bit in the sense that the quick hitting text, you can choreograph it. Right. Then like every caller's like, why the fuck did you bother calling in?
You can railroad it.
You're absolutely. So the question from coaches John and Dean Ellis, was it intentionally planned? No, not at all. The only thing was I knew I wanted to do emails. And so, because Jim Rome was doing emails, I'm like, you got to have the audience interact. And phone calls kind of, at KFNS back then, it was like the same 5 guys calling in. And they weren't good either, you know? I mean, it was rough. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, and also it was weird because I kind of felt like the host kissed their ass. It's like, oh, it's so good to hear from you. No, it's not. This is going to be bad now. And you like think you're a co-host. And I don't need to and then if I'm like short with you, you're like offended. Like you think you're like the boss. You're a caller to a sports talk radio station. You know, I mean, hey, great. Thanks for listening and everything. but I'm not beholden to you. It's like I feel like happens on our show. Doug definitely is not. I think you're guilty of it. I know I have been guilty of it. Iggy is definitely guilty of it. And Plowboy is guilty of it. And I feel like KG and O-Town is guilty of it, is being beholden to the fan page. And it's not against the fan page. It's just, you have to understand. And at some point, I'll probably be able to tell a story that I absolutely cannot right now, of like kind of driving home numbers. And it's not to say that you don't care about it. Just it isn't representative of how the show exists. But if you get caught up, if your world, I make a parallel oftentimes comparison to Power Mizzou, which I read, and my friend from journalism school, Gabe DeArmond, runs. If that's, I can always tell when somebody is a regular reader of Power Mizzou if I'm talking, because that's the only place you're going to get some of these certain opinions, or this person is like, they hate Frank Cusimano, and they hate me too, but they really hate Frank Cusimano and Power Mizzou. Most of the time in St. Louis, Frank Cusimano is like a saint.
Right.
But there, they think he's out to get Mizzou, and he's a Billiken guy and whatever, and so on and so forth. And I really don't think that's the case, but it doesn't fucking matter. So you can kind of tell. And I can tell when I get emails. That was like the one, when we had Micah on a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I was like, this is probably a fan page person, because this isn't true. And I'm not saying that because everything's fake on the fan page. It's just like certain things get passed off on the fan page that don't get passed off amongst the people who aren't on the fan page as truths. That's what I mean. And so along those lines, that can become a source of frustration from my standpoint, because it's like I got to fight ghosts that aren't real. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes frustrating to the audience who are on the fan page that I'm not talking about something, but if I don't read it, how do I know that it's there? Yeah. Like with KG and O-Town being Blueberry Pop Pop, I'm at my sister's wedding, and truly, I don't even think you do, but Doug and I don't listen to the show when we're not on it. That's not an indictment of the show. It's just we're just at different points in our life. It's just not what we're doing, you know? Like if I were sitting with my family last week playing my own show, not only would that be fucking strange, they'd go, God, this guy's an even bigger narcissist than we thought, you know? So we just don't know. So I didn't know about the Blueberry Pop Pop reveal until a commercial break on Balloon Party. Yep. But then I went and I'm like, I bet this is a big deal on the fan page. And sure enough, it was. But hey, that's great. You want people invested. But also what comes from people being super invested is they can create some things that aren't necessarily true. And I guess sometimes it can be just there's a void of information, so you start to speculate. The Shohei Ohtani thing would be
good
something example. Bringing to a topical conversation. Or you don't like Iggy, you don't like me, you don't like Plowboy, you don't like, they rarely do people not like you or Doug, but, then it's like, then this must be what really is going on, and they'll attach it because I don't like this person, so that's why this is going on. And in truth, we're just five dumb shits who are lucky enough to be able to do this, and there just really isn't anything choreographed going on. Yep. You know, my contract's up at the end of the year, and I'm working on that with Hubbard, and that's about as there's your news and notes on TMA. That's kind of it. Doug said he wants to do 6 more years. I was thrilled by that and surprised by it when we talked on the phone a couple weeks ago. There's nothing going on with Plowboy or Iggy as far as anything Navy, as far as I know anyway. And you and I do Balloon Party. They like it. I like doing the podcast with you. Mm-hmm. I'd like to find another person like you to be a part of other things that I'm involved in, and that would be great. I'm not saying you per se, although I would. Just that kind of work ethic and attitude and personality. That's what I'm saying. So there's kind of your TMA news and notes, which is very boring. But I guess if you're really into something, I look at it and I tie it into my girl Ella Reese. I'm mad at her for not posting more on social media, and I fucking hate social media. Yeah. But then, and I find myself, I go, man, I'm like married and a dad, and I'm irritated by this probably 27-year-old porn star not posting more. The fuck's wrong with me? Yeah, you know? But it takes some kind of awareness. It was like the William Shatner. Have you ever seen the William Shatner thing, Saturday Night Live? Mm-mm. It would resonate. Okay. He's doing a Star Trek convention. This is probably in the 1980s. And he played the role of Captain Kirk.
Oh, yeah. Michael Myers' mask is a William Shatner mask.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's a what.
I did not know that. Man, this is your second fun fact today, along with Blake Lively's older brother being the second Rusty in European Vacation.
That's right.
You're
Jason
having a big
Lively.
day.
Big day.
And I'm not saying this is the TMA. I'm just saying when you have people who get really into something, so like me with Ella Reese, you with Missouri basketball, and William Shatner appears at a Star Trek convention, and this is a Saturday Night Live skit, and he goes, "Okay," he goes, "I got some time for some questions," and people start asking him whether or not
deep Star Trek,
deep Star Trek questions.
Yeah.
And he's getting fresh. He goes, "Come on! I mean, some of you are in your 30s and 40s. I mean, have you ever even kissed a girl?"
In the Shatner voice.
right, in the Shatner voice. And it's just like, if you're really into it, but I'm like that with Missouri football, and I'm like that with Ella Reese, and what else am I? Golf.
Peter Malnati.
Today, Peter Malnati all day long. I guess I got to see how he did on 11 to hold out hope for this Sunday charge. No, now he's 10 over through 12. We're fucked. It's over. God bless America. So yeah, it's one of those things, and I guess but it comes with the territory. If you're going to have a show where people get really into it, this comes with the territory, which is why I say something that I know sounds probably not true. But you want to have people hate you. Not everybody. But who is the most, I'll ask you this. It's rhetorical, but maybe you have an answer. Most successful radio broadcaster of the last 25 years?
Oof.
I don't even,
Stern?
to me, there's two.
Stern or Rome?
No, Rush Limbaugh is bigger than Rome. Yeah. But Rome's big too.
Yeah.
And there are people who, Rush, of course, passed away 3 years ago, but there are people who hate both those people, but yet listen intently. I mean, the number, there is, I don't even know how the fuck I think I typed something in because Stern had a guest on and I wanted to find some, it was with relatively recent. And there is a Twitter account where if I'm Howard Stern, I'm going, we got to keep an eye on this guy. But I mean, at his point, he's probably so big, he's got like 10,000 of those people that just like obsessively like tweets. I mean, it's insane. And I was going, oh my God, that's the deal. It's not fun, but for every one of those, in Stern's case, there's probably 10,000 or 50,000 fans, and in our case, for every one of those, there's probably like 1,000 fans, and so you don't get caught up in it. And so when somebody asks about, like this question was asked about the audience's interaction with the show, it was not planned. The byproduct of the audience's interaction is when your text is not read or your email is not read, you think it's personal because you call it as a parasocial. Is that the
parasocial relationship
where people think they know you,
right? Because they listen.
Because they listen, and then if you're not reading their stuff, they think it's an agenda.
Slight, yeah.
Yeah, which is apparently one of the things that the texters are my buddies from my class at St. Louis U High. I mean, I don't think there's a member of the class of 1994 at St. Louis U High. I don't know if anyone listen, much less text into the show. But that becomes like, okay, I don't like them, and they don't read me, so I really don't like them, and so now I'm going to apply like this just, and if you step out of the bubble where other people hate, you then realize how fucking insane it is.
Right.
I had a guy, this was, I think, more than a decade ago, actually, who, it was a message board situation. Did you just make a little thumbs up gesture when I said message board situation, or you just grabbed the mic?
No, I was just taking a snatch off my water.
And I don't know what happened. I don't know if he was dealing with something, and I mean that sincerely. I'm not saying it to mock it, but he had a moment of clarity, and he goes, I just want to apologize to you. He goes, and it was a really sincere email. I didn't blame it on anything. He goes, I've kind of stepped away from the message board, and then I went back to it. He goes, I didn't realize like how, I would use the word toxic. I don't think that's the word he used. He goes, and I was a big part of it, And he goes, I'm just sorry. I don't even know if you know what my name was on there or whatever. He goes, it's really, it's a little scary that I didn't even think anything of it when I was doing it. And I was like, man, in a way, I'm happy for him that he kind of got out of that.
I think that's so commendable.
Yeah, and then on top of it, I tip my cap that he actually sent an email one-on-one and apologized. Now, I didn't know, because there's not so many, but, there's tens, I guess, at that time with that thing. And so people go, well, why don't you guys, I think we're all members of the fan page minus Iggy, but we're not active on. I guess the Plowboy is the most active.
Oh, Plowboy, chop in.
Yeah.
It really makes me laugh.
Because Doug, I have a real theory on Doug's Nirvana, but I almost want to talk with him about it sometime to see if I'm right, not on the air. But I think I know, because it's a real thing. And yours is just so intriguing because you're so young to have it. And then Iggy says he isn't bothered by it, but yet, I don't agree with that. I don't think he's lying per se. I just think obviously he is bothered by it. But it's not something that, it's not a fun thing to say that you're bothered by it. I don't know if I would necessarily say I'm bothered by it so much as there's really not much upside. So once you become aware of that and you see through the lens, why read things? Why go somewhere where you're going to read things that, number one, are negative, but number two, aren't true? And then under number two, there's no point in even engaging with it because it doesn't matter what you say. This goes back to my thing on the Ohtani thing. Nobody's going to believe it anyway. And that's, I guess, where I have arrived at peace in a different route that Doug got there. Mine was kind of like a throwing my hands up in the air. It's like, I tried, and you still don't believe me, and you still think this, so fine, fuck it. Then it becomes the Norm Stewart officiating thing, whatever. Doug's, I think, is different. Yours might have been expedited by Balloon Party. That's my theory.
I also think growing up with social media is a big reason.
Yeah.
I think that's it, because I kind of understand, one, how easy it is for people to hide behind the keyboard and say whatever they want and act a different way, and also how many, as soon as a burner shows up, it's automatically, sorry,
right?
Your opinion means literally nothing, because if you don't have the balls to put your real name or face on
that's it. I'm out.
And that's the thing.
And I know there are burners on the TMA fan page, but I'm not in the mood to activate somebody who then is going to start, doing stuff that I think a lot of people who are listening to this could not believe goes on. But and the station has, and the Creve Coeur Police have. I can't speak for the Creve Coeur Police, but files that it's like, okay, what's the point? And that's why I don't think we've blocked anybody from that thing, and I don't know how long.
For a long
time. I think people get suspended, but that's a Facebook thing. Exactly. I don't know. Either way. So it's a weird deal. If you don't have that, you probably don't have a popular show.
Right.
So and I realize how up is down and down is up and cats and dogs sleeping together, yeah. but it really is the truth. Right. In 2024. But I also think it was probably the truth in the 1980s. It was just expressed in a different way, and that was by snail mail, or I guess phone calls. Mm-hmm. Now we're, I guess, more accessible, I guess, theoretically, but if you don't really get engaged on or don't engage on social media, then you don't necessarily, see it.
Yeah.
So, occasionally I'll talk about how I'm not on social media, or how there's a person who's not at Hubbard in St. Louis, but who's in broadcasting in St. Louis, says, you're really making a mistake by not being on social media. And this person's probably right, but I immediately think of what you just said. Because I do love interacting with the audience, obviously.
Right.
I mean, that's what this is.
Or on airplanes, when you're on an airplane, you'll often do a little...
a Q&A thing on the fan page.
Right.
And I'll do it on the fan page, but I'm thinking about Twitter specifically.
Got it.
Because even in the Q&As on the fan page, it becomes almost performative. It's like, okay, I'm going to come at Tim with this, and I'm going to have the balls to, But again, that's 1 out of even 100 there. But on Twitter, now you got burners. And now it's not. Now it becomes like so there's no point.
No.
I mean, and why would I? And that's what I think of.
It's like
So that's why the fan page is like the place that I would, if I'm gonna do it, that's where I would do it. But even then, it's, I don't know. I don't know what the right word for it is. When I'm not on the show, it's complained about, and that's not a shot at you, but it's complained about.
I see it.
yeah. I guess you know.
I have a front row seat. Yeah.
Perhaps better than anybody. But then it's like, oh my God, it's whatever. So it's just like you can't publicly compliment me because then you get called a lemming. So then you got to and it's just boring to me. That's my honest answer for it. It's boring because it's not real, and I'm just not interested in things that are not real, which is why like Dan Orlovsky is my go-to, because I'm like, oh, Clay Travis, it's a performance. And I don't know what Orlovsky's making. I mean, it's probably not like crazy money, but I'm sure he's making a nice living. Clay Travis is really making a nice living. And hey, God bless, it worked. In the 1980s, people thought wrestling was real. Hey, God bless. And maybe I'll be sitting in my 60s and going, God, I should have just done it.
I can't imagine that will be the case.
I don't know. I honestly do sometimes think that. I really do.
Okay.
I like the ghost that kind of haunts me. Like I'm really at peace with not going to New York in 2007. I really am. But I do wonder about not, just flat out being like a character and doing the game.
Okay.
What did you think I was?
I thought you meant like a social media like.
Well, that's where you play the character.
Right, okay.
That's where you just.
But that would also
shit.
they bleed through the on the broadcast. You'd be the take guy.
Right.
Right. Okay. I thought you meant like doing.
I really do, but I don't know if I'm going to look back on it and go, God, I could have made. I really do think millions. I realize that might come off wrong, and in this case, I mean sincerely. I hope it doesn't, because I know I say that a lot. Because it's kind of like it's there, and it's so easy. Yeah. Once you get to a certain point, to just like do it, that it's almost like a temptation. But I just value the trust of the audience. To me, that's and I know this right now. What is this? This sounds like broadcast virtue signaling.
Yeah, high horse.
But I mean But to me, that's the North Star. It really is. I don't want the audience to ever go, well, you flat out lied. The fuck,
Yeah.
because then it's over.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's not over like career over. Although it is career over. Career may be over. I'm talking about like if I get to 65 years old, and if I'm still living around here or come back here, that's what I'm known as, that he lied, I'd be really uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So that's why when I give an opinion, you might not like it, but at least that's what I really think. And if I don't have information on something, for example, earlier this week when Doug and Ed Herman were going back and forth on the TikTok and the China thing, and I know that's a hot button thing with Doug, and right when it came up, I'm like, oh, I already know where this is going. I don't know. All I know is I really like TikTok. I have no idea. I also operate probably from a different mindset than Doug does. I assume there's somebody in my computer looking at shit anyway and go, yeah, this guy beats off Della Reese a lot. But I'm just like, whatever. It's fine. I don't know if I would say it's fine.
It's not in my top 10 of my concerns.
It is what it is, and I don't know what am I going to do to stop. Not have a phone, not have a laptop, not beat off Della Reese. None of those things are
not
tenable.
Happening. Yeah, not happening. Certainly the last. I think you're Jeff Daniels in the newsroom. You're Don Quixote. You're on. Well,
I consider that a great compliment, actually, because that is one of my favorite characters. Certainly idealistic as fuck.
Me too. The ending is brutal, but
the guitar.
Sam Morrison. Not what we want. Either way, that's the case. You see everyone around you.
But I don't think I'm the only one. I'm saying, like you, and this, where I'm coming from. So I hope you follow when I say this. You couldn't just go, I'm going to play a character and go, okay, I think I can go make millions of dollars, because it takes a certain amount of. You have to kind of build up to get into the point where now you're in a spot where you can be live to do that. Like Clay did not build himself up as
No.
what it is that he's doing now. He was an SEC. He was a guest on TMA regularly. I had him in studio for one of the first episodes of this podcast, and I, cross-examined him in that podcast. We should play. Of course, it's so dated now, that interview, because it was October of 17.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've thought about it because you're
I've kind of, it's just a lot of the topics are like just
dated,
and like sometimes dated isn't bad
But
by
in
any
this
means.
one, when you're talking about, 'cause
yeah,
it was the first year of Trump's presidency, first full year anyway.
yeah, and then and like when you like Clay, you're right, but like with Orlovsky, like you kind of cut the line if you play in the NFL and you're talking about sports, like you can kind of athletes get the bump, and then you can step up and be the performative person. But
Right.
Stephen A. Smith had to grind for years
Right.
before he could be what he is.
I was planning on doing a really short podcast. Obviously, it's not happened. I'm still going to press eject just because I really want to watch the Masters.
No, I
but
get you.
I got a really good email while I was out of town for QFTA about what this person sees as the grift of the mainstream to the right. And I feel like it's really good. Now, he cited some people that I don't necessarily see. He cited Clay. Clay is a smart guy. You might not like it, but I can tell you he's
law degree.
Smart degree. Well, yeah, are you doing that the mock thing? Because he always would point out that he has a law degree.
No, I really didn't. I just
okay.
because I
Who does?
agree.
So
He
there's
is a
somebody
smart
else
guy.
who likes to do that. It's like Oprah's friend Gail King as somebody who's like, I'm a lawyer, or Judge Deneen or whatever that. She's.
I don't know.
Oh wow, that's a good one.
No, I was just saying because Clay is like an intelligent person.
Yes, he truly is.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's very ABC. But, like if somebody, what an alarming moment it is for me. If somebody who I'm like, yeah, this, it's not that they're a friend. I have plenty of friends who certainly are probably big Outkick fans. Probably more, as you can imagine, if somebody plays a lot of golf, it's not a hotbed of Subarus in the parking lot.
No.
But if like somebody who I kind of was just like, I thought was just like Equilibrium.
Right.
And I get an Outkick link. Whew. Boy, what a moment.
A lot of capitalization in those headlines, a lot of caps.
And for the record, just to do the whole both side thing, but it's just not happening, especially in my little world. If I don't even know what the counter to that would be. I have no idea.
Sports, I don't know if there is.
Yeah, that's doing that's playing that whole game.
I don't know if there is one.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I do wonder. I do. I honestly do wonder because it's so easy. It's so obvious. Like, for example, I kind of made reference to it on TMA this morning. Like, it was like brave for host to talk about Caitlin Clark and race being a I'm like, it's like saying I'm short. It's so fucking obvious that, like, was that brave that I said I'm short? That's obviously a part of it.
Right.
But I don't get why that's like, well, only he will have the nerve to say, but I don't get it. Are we acting like that wasn't a part of the equation in '79 between Indiana State and Michigan State? It's, of course, part of it. But I also don't necessarily think that means somebody's evil if they identify with somebody more so. I'm sure there are people who are Jewish who you identify more, and I certainly do with Irish.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like fourth generation, it's just kind of the way humans work. It becomes an issue if you go, oh, you're Jewish, then get the fuck out of here,
those who
or
control
you can't
power.
be hired.
Right.
That's where the issue becomes.
Right.
So anyway, what the fuck we got going on here? This was just a gentlemanly question from coaches John and Dean Ellis, and the next thing I know, I'm ranting and raving. Let's see. What is weird about fan page members showing? What is weird is fan page members showing cleavage or crotch shots with gas station food on the fan page. But they are very funny. That's from Chris Bray, coaches John and Dean Ellis. I'm not on the fan pin, but what really amuses me is how easily they seem to get under Iggy and Plowsy's skin. And then Chris Bray says, it is fun. It's interesting what catches on and what doesn't. Either way. Good question from coaches John and Dean Ellis, because that is, it sounds like whenever I have my last TMA, and who knows, it might be this year. I'm not saying that to be dramatic, but it might be. I don't know. I will say, and I will emphasize it sincerely, and it will probably sound like, like a musician thanks the fans at the Grammys or something like that. But I want to say it over and over again, because we spend a disproportionate amount, I spend a disproportionate amount of time on the ne'er-do-wells. And I think probably, the show does, in a sense. In a way, it's, Plowboy reacting to a text that he hasn't read yet, or Iggy Tom on the fan page, or Doug saying block him, or whatever. But the audience of TMA, the vast majority, number one, are just like people I'd want to hang out with, truly. But then, and then in addition to it, funnier than like everybody on the show but Doug. You know, I mean, for real, like the stuff that they send in, and it's so fucking quick. You know, that was the thing when I was talking about Tommy, when we were talking about coming over here, and he goes, oh, it could just be a podcast. I go, hey, man, it's not a podcast. I go, it kind of plays like a podcast because we don't have a clock. But he goes, but most of your listeners podcast. I go, I think they stream. I don't think they listen on the radio. I think they live stream.
Yep.
Plenty of people podcast, but you can't get as many texts live about the content that we're talking about in the moment.
Right.
If people weren't listening live. And now you can see it on the YouTube and the live stream and the app and all of that. But that was actually something that I don't want to say I had to fight for, but I'm like, hey, I know there are live listeners. I know you're looking at it, and it's like it's on a station that a lot of people don't listen to or whatever, you know, and I understand that, and that's not intended to be a shot at KFNS. Fuck, I was responsible for 920. A lot of people didn't listen to 920. What'd they do? They listened through their phones.
I did.
TMA would not be able to exist in 1990s.
Right, pre-text.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to be, when I was at KFNS, when I first started out at KFNS, people, oh, you're on the radio. Where are you? I go, KFNS. I'd go, KFNS. They go, oh, I can't hear that. When are you guys going to, this is what I used to hear. When are you guys going to get a stronger signal? As if it was something like you could give the FCC $500,000 and they'd go, oh, there you go. We'll boost you. We'll unlock this. But I also understand why people didn't know. It's frequencies and patterns, and the FCC clears certain, so that's why KMOX was intended to be, if there was an attack, the way that the Midwest could be communicated with, east of the Rockies and west of fucking seemingly everywhere. Yeah, the audience truly, it's an astute observation, and I've been very lucky because it goes back to the beginning of the show with emails, and certainly texters have just been hilarious. So nice question, coaches John and Dean Ellis. Thank you to our sponsors. Studio sponsor Longo Biggs, James Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. Also Mark Hanna of Evergreen Wealth Strategies, and Seth Goldcamp of Design Air Heating and Cooling. For Jackson Burkett, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been QFTA, Tim McKernan Show podcast from the Longo Biggs Studios.